Hollywood's most alluring leading men of the Golden Age, a timeless top 10. They reigned as the silver screen's deities, these men shaping the definition of masculinity for countless American generations. Yet behind those sharply defined jaws and flawless grins hold Hollywood's most closely guarded secret, an army of physicians, fashion stylists, and public relations experts who crafted these icons from everyday individuals. The alteration made to the third entry on our list was so drastic that it would astound viewers in the present day and utterly reimagine your perception of one of cinema's most celebrated icons, and prepare to be profoundly moved by his story, a tale that will undoubtedly leave you heartbroken. The heart-wrenching story that continues to evoke tears from fans even years later, prompting the question, which of these iconic actors was your childhood idol? Personally, I'm completely captivated by their classic movies and the timeless allure of Hollywood's golden age. Looking back at Hollywood's iconic leading men of the golden age, we perceive more than just performers. We see a foundational model. This portrayal of American masculinity, which resonated with countless generations, went beyond simply featuring attractive men who were fortunate enough to be in the right place. These meticulously produced items were the result of a powerful studio system that exerted significant control. All aspects of their lives, both public and private, were under scrutiny during the 1930s, and in the 1940s, film studios carefully crafted their male actors to exude both strength and refined allure. By the 1950s, a sense of rugged authenticity gained commercial appeal, even if it necessitated just as much covert maneuvering is involved in reaching our countdown, which features the most legendary figures from classic. Hollywood is shedding light on not only their iconic status, but also the genuine narratives behind their meticulously crafted images. Hollywood's golden era boasted some truly captivating leading men. Let's take a look at the top 10 most charismatic actors of that time and explore what made them so unforgettable. What happened to these legends as they progressed past their meticulously controlled peak years? 10. Gregory Peck. When Gregory Peck, when he first graced the screen in the 1940s, viewers were immediately enthralled by his commanding presence, standing at an impressive 6 feet 3 inches with a powerful, resonant voice, and a compelling moral weight that emanated from his acting. Movies such as To Kill a Mockingbird, Roman Holiday, and Gentleman's Agreement exemplify. He became known as Hollywood's moral compass, representing both integrity and a dignified form of masculinity. What set Peck apart from other stars of the Golden Age was his exceptional consistency, both in his public persona and his on-screen performances. Unlike numerous individuals from his era found that Peck's personal image demanded minimal studio intervention. Because he inherently possessed the traits audiences revered in his on-screen personas, Greg was an exceptionally unique star who, according to longtime studio publicist Alan Winston, as recounted in his memoir, the subject didn't require extensive refinement. He simply walked into the room and directed it instinctively. The studio's role wasn't about crafting a visual representation for him, but rather ensuring that viewers perceived what was. His genuineness also manifested in his physical appearance. Unlike some celebrities who heavily depended on cosmetic enhancements, while Peck's visually appealing qualities stayed mostly the same during his entire career, his only notable one concession to Hollywood's beauty ideals in the early 1940s involved dental procedures, aiming to achieve the flawless smile that. This approach would later become a defining characteristic of his. As Peck matured, he continued to engage with the process with the same grace that was always evident in his. By the 1980s and 90s, his hair had gracefully transitioned to a distinguished silver, with age etching fine lines upon his face. His iconic visage was instantly recognizable. Yet the core essence of Gregory Peck remained unchanged. Upon Peck's passing in 2003 at the age of 87, he was lauded not only for his exceptional acting talent, but also as a true embodiment of Hollywood's golden age, a star who, Errol Flynn's genuine personality seamlessly matched his public persona. The expression, "in like Flynn," became a permanent fixture in the American language for a valid reason: Errol Flynn's captivating appearance and impressive athleticism. His roguish charm and rebellious persona solidified his status as the quintessential swashbuckling heartthrob of the 1930s and 40s. Movies such as Captain. Errol Flynn's portrayals in The Adventures of Robin Hood and The Seahawk established the archetype for action heroes that would influence generations to come. What audiences didn't grasp was that Flynn's charming persona was a result of meticulous studio control. Since Warner Brothers first encountered the unheralded Australian actor, studio records indicate Flynn experienced extensive dental work in 1935, which involved replacing numerous compromised teeth and altering the shape of several others too. Craft his captivating grin prior to his triumph in Captain Blood, the development of Flynn's. While Flynn possessed natural athletic talent, he underwent rigorous training to hone his skills to perfection. His signature sword fights and daring stunts were preceded by intense training regimens. His iconic shirtless moments were the result of rigorous physical preparation. He utilized innovative training sessions and carefully planned lighting to highlight his physique, techniques that continue to be employed by action stars today. Today, Flynn grasped the essence of his own enterprise, recognizing the significance of his long-standing director. Michael Curtis understood that his worth was intrinsically linked to projecting a particular image and maintaining a consistent outward appearance, and he diligently worked towards this. This meticulously crafted image started to deteriorate in the late 1940s, revealing a reality more demanding than people had perceived. Flynn's. His notorious off-screen indulgences, especially his excessive alcohol consumption, had a noticeable impact on his looks. By his early 40s, Flynn's features had noticeably gained fullness, and his once toned physique had lost its former definition. Flynn's health deteriorated rapidly throughout the 1950s, much to the dismay of fans who witnessed his condition firsthand rather than just through media portrayals. Viewed through the forgiving lens of studio publicity, when he passed away in 1959 at the young age of 50, the stark difference between his final look and his immortalized likeness served as a cautionary tale, illustrating how rapidly the truth might stray from the meticulously constructed facade, as film historian Richard Schickel later observed. Flynn's. The shift from golden idol to physical ruin occurred with heartbreaking swiftness. Still, in our collective memory, he, forever youthful, forever captivating, a testament to cinema's ability to halt time's relentless march and protect the beauty that in truth is transient, notwithstanding his swift deterioration. Flynn's status as the ultimate embodiment of a dashing, adventurous hero endures. This serves as a powerful reminder of how deeply his youthful persona was ingrained in the public's mind during Hollywood's golden age. During the era of Rock Hudson, he captivated audiences with his impressive 6 feet 5 inches stature, strong jawline, and disarming presence. Rock Hudson's smile epitomized the 1950s concept of masculinity to such a degree that it was astounding to discover the extent to which Universal Studios had to alter Roy Harrold's appearance to achieve that iconic look. Hudson's transformation into a Hollywood leading man is among the most remarkable makeovers the industry has ever seen. Upon his initial encounter with the attractive young man employed as a truck driver, Agent Henry Wilson recognized his latent possibilities, but studio records reveal that Hudson faced considerable challenges and received extensive coaching aimed at reducing his His naturally treble voice underwent dental reconstruction to achieve a flawless smile, braving uncomfortable procedures in the process. Correct a minor ear prominence that didn't flatter him in side-view pictures. Even his name was a fabrication. Implying strength and durability, Hudson portrayed American landscapes, crafting a distinctly masculine American identity. As studio publicist Mark Miller explained afterward, crafting Rock Hudson's persona went beyond simply enhancing a few aspects. The focus was on creating a fully realized product, starting from its very foundation. The physical makeover was merely the beginning. From the outset, Universal meticulously constructed Hudson's public image as the epitome of the charming, all-American heartthrob. Despite concealing his homosexuality, he maintained a facade by participating in arranged dates with aspiring actresses and ultimately entered into a fabricated marriage orchestrated by. This double life placed immense strain on Hudson to uphold, not only his physical looks, but a completely made-up personal history as well. As Hudson navigated his middle years in the 1960s, he diligently strived to maintain his status as a leading man. Makeup artist Bob Schiffer remembered Hudson's increasing dependence on cosmetic enhancements. Despite his naturally striking appearance, by this point he was. In the mid-1960s, we employed every conceivable technique from strategic lighting and camera angles to meticulous makeup to preserve the. By the 1970s, Hudson's acting career shifted to embrace characters that naturally reflected his maturing looks. Achieving success on television with Macmillan and Wife, his hair had naturally turned gray over time, and though he had once been held to a standard of studio-perfected handsomeness in his younger days, a more genuine appearance had now taken its place. The final stage of Hudson's transformation arrived with heartbreaking speed. He emerged looking gaunt and drastically different. During a 1985 press conference alongside Doris Day, the public was stunned by the news of his death due to AIDS. Later that year, at the age of 59, he faced unforeseen complications which not only brought his homosexuality to light, but also stunned the public. Emphasized the extent to which his genuine personality had been concealed beneath a fabricated persona. Notwithstanding this disclosure, Hudson's movies persistently display the artificial flawlessness that propelled him to stardom, creating a cinematic monument to his image. An artificially created notion that, despite being entirely fabricated, persists in shaping our. The idea of masculine allure was redefined by Robert Mitchum, emerging during a time when leading men were typically presented as impeccably polished. He distinguished himself with his languid, world-weary stare and an aura of genuine danger that made him the quintessential film noir tough guy. Mitchum's persona of effortless coolness masked a carefully considered approach to his. Mitchum's arrival in Hollywood during the early years was marked by a carefully considered approach to his appearance, involving strategic cosmetic enhancements. In the 1940s, his strong features were deemed almost excessively rugged for the role of a leading man. RKO studio heads believed that. He was especially worried about his nose, which had sustained numerous fractures throughout his career as a professional boxer. Prior to his acting career, Mitchum worked as both a manual laborer and, according to film historian Robert Server's biography. Initially, he declined rhinoplasty, a decision that solidified his rebellious image. However, by 1947, following the triumph of Out of, his past achievements propelled Mitchum to A-list recognition, but he eventually yielded to studio demands and had a minor nose reshaping procedure. Adjusted its distinctive, arched bridge while preserving its inherently robust silhouette. What distinguished Mitchum's? The cosmetic work's unique quality lay in its intentional preservation of the very imperfections that set him apart from others. Typically attractive leading men, his strikingly illuminated eyes, which many casting directors had originally viewed as a his reputation for being a liability was solidified when, in the early 1950s, a studio executive recommended he consider eyelid surgery. Mitchum, he famously stated, "The eyes remain unchanged. It's what draws me to the intriguing aspects." As Mitchum grew older, his approach to his cosmetic upkeep primarily centered on his jawline, which had started to lose its definition by the mid-1960s. Instead of continuing to Instead of a traditional facelift, which could have altered his rugged looks, he chose a series of more precise procedures. Processes from 1968 to 1975, as documented by his trusted personal physician, Dr. Ronald. Curran subsequently stated that Bob's situation involved maintenance work, nothing overly significant, just enough to preserve the defined jawline. He had a reputation for being particular about avoiding any appearance of being overly styled or made up. Unlike several other celebrities, as Mitchum got older, he actively sought out parts that reflected his more mature persona, playing characters who were increasingly seasoned. The natural aging process diminishes the visibility of any cosmetic procedures. As he stated to Esquire in 1983, "I appear my age. I simply ensure it accurately reflects my age." By the time Mitchum graced the screen in films such as The Yakuza, 1974, and Farewell, in his late 50s, My Lovely 1975 bore the marks of a life well lived on his face, etched with lines that spoke of experience and character. A worn quality that harmonized flawlessly with his air of world weariness. His hair had naturally turned gray, and though he took care, too, while he maintained a prominent jawline, he let other signs of aging become more apparent. This deliberate approach aimed at while preserving certain distinctive characteristics, Mitchum's later look embraced natural aging in other areas, resulting in an authenticity that many of his. Upon his passing in 1997 at the age of 79, his visage remained a familiar sight, something his contemporaries had never fully attained. Possessed the very essence that had propelled him to stardom half a century prior, that undeniable blend of the hard-boiled resilience and global-spanning weariness that characterized film noir masculinity, as film critic Roger Ebert noted in a career interview with Mitchum. We see a unique star who has gracefully embraced the natural progression of aging, becoming precisely who he is today. The seamless alignment between the man and his persona is perhaps the most astonishing achievement in an industry founded on the illusion of six, embodied by Paul Newman, with his iconic blue eyes and impressive physique. Possessing both natural charm and charisma, Paul Newman embodied a fresh archetype of the leading man that rose to prominence in the 1950s, a man who was undeniably masculine but attractive and appealing, yet possessing a strong presence. Newman's allure differed from that of many studio-era stars in that it stemmed from his. The notion of authenticity trumping manufactured perfection wasn't entirely correct. Although Newman undoubtedly blessed with natural attractiveness, his rise to leading man status involved strategic refinements early in. Throughout his career, Newman made subtle adjustments to his appearance to accommodate what studio heads perceived as his sole physical drawback. Minor imperfections, such as slightly protruding ears and a nasal asymmetry resulting from a past sports injury. Makeup artist Dick Smith, who collaborated with Newman on The Hustler, later disclosing Paul possessed an inherent photogenic appeal, but there were still. For his initial films, we made minor tweaks, like gently taping his ears back for close-up shots and using makeup to accentuate the His facial symmetry was highlighted, while the camera lens magnified even the smallest flaws. What set Newman's approach apart was his defining characteristic was his consistency and measured approach. Unlike several stars who opted for increasingly bold procedures after his initial enhancements, Newman chose to let himself age gracefully, shifting his focus to keeping his physical health in top shape through demanding workouts and a strict diet. Newman's appearance shifted as he moved into his 50s and 60s. He crafted nuanced character portrayals that lent weight and seriousness to his roles in movies such as The Verdict, 1982, and Nobody's Fool. In 1994, his captivating blue eyes still held their allure, and his progressively silvering hair only added to his charm rather than detracting from it. To enhance his image, Newman accepted these alterations, recognizing that they lent an air of credibility to his more seasoned persona. Director Sidney Pollack observed that Paul, in the roles he selected, increasingly exuded a remarkable sense of self-assurance. Who collaborated with Newman in the film Absence of Malice understood that permitting himself to age noticeably on screen granted him access to more complex characters and more nuanced performances were his aim. He wasn't fixated on preserving the appearance of his 30-year-old self. This strategy delivered remarkable results in terms of a long and successful career, whereas many of his peers faced difficulties in maintaining their status as leading men as they got older. Newman continued to appear in prominent films well into his seventh decade, his weathered visage evolving into a powerful dramatic element instead of a flaw to be concealed by the time of his last on-screen appearance In 2002, at the age of 77, Newman accomplished something truly extraordinary. Hollywood had seen him age not simply with grace, but in a way that was utterly captivating, each wrinkle and strand of silver hair only enhancing his allure. Rather than diminishing his captivating on-screen persona when Newman passed away in 2008 at the age of 83. The tributes highlighted not only his exceptional beauty and youth, but also the remarkable nature of his entire life's path. Leonard Moulton, a film critic, noted a distinctive trait in Newman's appearance, one uncommon among prominent men of his time. Presented us with something remarkable, a principal actor who let us witness his aging process authentically, year by year, movie by movie. Striving for authenticity, devoid of pretense or exaggerated self-importance, Newman's film career stands in contrast to an industry frequently consumed by the relentless pursuit of youthful appearances. Evolution took a unique path, demonstrating that authenticity can be not only personally rewarding, but also commercially successful. 5. With Gene Kelly's athleticism, dazzling smile, and boundless energy. Gene Kelly transformed the movie musical genre and established a novel masculine archetype that fused strength with. Though Kelly's charm appeared effortless, it was actually the result of a meticulously constructed image that demanded continuous upkeep. When Kelly graced Hollywood with her presence in 1941, following her triumphs in MGM, executives on Broadway swiftly recognized several inherent physical constraints. This was an issue that had to be resolved before he could achieve leading man status. Studio dental records indicate that Kelly had undergone. He achieved his captivating smile through extensive dental work, involving the capping and reshaping of several teeth to attain the ideal look. The symmetry, a characteristic that would later define his work, was not as important as the studio's worry over Kelly's receding. Even though a receding hairline was becoming apparent in his late 20s, MGM devised a solution using custom-made hairpieces for Kelly to wear. In nearly every movie since the 1942 release of For Me and My Gal, these hairpieces were meticulously crafted with exceptional care, using human hair hand-stitched onto a nearly invisible base, Kelly's Makeup artist William Tuttle, reflecting back on his long career, remembered Jean's hairpieces as masterpieces, the highest quality money could acquire. Their flawless execution was essential, as his physically strenuous dance routines would have exposed any imperfections. To accommodate the sweat-induced need for cleaning and restyling, multiple identical versions of each garment were created for each film. This meticulous work off-camera crafted the illusion of Kelly's flawless physique and ageless energy that viewers held in high regard. Classics such as Singing in the Rain, 1952, and An American in Paris during 1951, sustaining this persona demanded remarkable self-control from Kelly, who he'd adhered to a strict exercise routine and diet years before these practices became popular among male celebrities. As Kelly got older, as he entered his 50s and 60s, preserving the image of a fit and athletic dancer proved to be a growing difficulty for him. During the 1970s, television appearances benefited from more advanced hair styling techniques and carefully planned lighting, which effectively maintained a youthful appearance. The perception shifted as makeup techniques advanced to gracefully handle the natural indications of aging. By the point of his last significant during the 1980s, despite largely stepping away from dancing, Kelly continued to meticulously nurture her public image. Even at the age of 70, he rarely ventured into public without meticulous planning, recognizing the importance of his carefully cultivated image. Deeply connected to the vibrant, energetic image he'd cultivated years ago, film historian Janine Bassinger observes that the image Kelly had to uphold was especially challenging to preserve because it wasn't simply about appearing attractive. It was about conveying an image of robust health and athletic prowess. That is to say, maintaining an illusion of youthful allure proves significantly more challenging as one ages, compared to simply preserving facial attractiveness. When Kelly passed away in 1996, by the time he reached 83, most people hadn't witnessed him perform or engage in public appearances for a considerable length of time. His carefully planned retreat ensured his dynamic on-screen persona would be permanently etched in the cultural consciousness. The viral, a dancer with athletic prowess, joyfully leaping through puddles and swinging from lampposts with unrestrained energy as envisioned by the choreographer. And Kelly's protege, Kenny Ortega, noticed that Jean recognized his lasting impact was intrinsically linked to a particular physical appearance. He meticulously controlled his later public outings, ensuring that whenever people thought of Gene Kelly, they would invariably witness the epitome of athletic perfection, a figure in constant motion, a persona meticulously crafted and preserved throughout his entire career. James Dean's iconic status is built upon a foundation of only 3 movies and a life tragically ended prematurely at the age of 24, he underwent a transformation, shifting from a talented, up-and-coming actor to the epitome of alluring youthful rebellion, forever immortalized as such. What numerous enthusiasts overlook is the deliberate craftsmanship behind Dean's outwardly genuine rebel persona. Upon Dean's arrival in Hollywood during the early 1950s, he possessed a conventionally attractive appearance, yet lacked any distinctive qualities. A budding actor, striving for substantial roles, underwent a metamorphosis into the legendary figure we recall, a transformation that commenced when a director, Elia Kazan's decision to cast him in the 1955 film East of Eden proved instrumental in shaping not only his. While his performance was impressive, Warner Brothers studio records indicate they initially had reservations about his overall image. Dean's looks, especially his slightly misaligned teeth and skin that was prone to acne, were particularly noteworthy prior to the start of filming for East of Eden. Dean opted for dental procedures to enhance his smile, carefully preserving the subtle imperfections that contributed to its unique charm. His genuine allure was cultivated through makeup techniques tailored to his unique skin concerns, all while preserving a costume designer Moss Mabry, who contributed to the iconic film Rebel Without a Cause, later disclosed her approach to creating a naturalistic on-screen appearance. Dean's signature look was carefully crafted, with every detail of James' appearance intentionally chosen. We experimented with dozens of. He explored various t-shirts to discover the ideal cut and material for a flawless photograph, while his jeans were tailored to his exact measurements, and purposely distressed to attain that perfect lived-in look. Even his seemingly effortless hair was meticulously styled to appear. Dean's carefully crafted persona was revolutionary because it gave the impression of deliberate nonchalance. Instead of simply conforming to Hollywood's polished aesthetic, Dean possessed a unique genius, as film historian David Thompson observed. The ability to blend personal and professional seamlessly was transforming meticulously crafted creations into something that felt effortlessly spontaneous and genuine. The tragedy of Dean's story is encapsulated in the ironic twist of his fatal car accident in September 1955. Right as this meticulously crafted persona was poised to be embraced by the masses, Rebel Without a Cause emerged. Hadn't been made public yet, and Giant was still under development. His passing immediately shifted his status from hopeful to an actor, forever frozen as an eternally youthful icon, remains eternally fixed in our memories at the peak of their youthful perfection. The safeguarding of Dean's image transformed in a new way following his passing. Studios, photographers, and those crafting his mythology. Collaboratively, efforts were made to refine and safeguard his legacy. Damaged negatives were restored, uncomplimentary photographs were concealed, and the story of the beautiful rebel, meticulously crafted by those who sought to gain from his legendary status after his death. The heartbreak over Dean's fate isn't solely due to his untimely death, but also the profound sense of loss for all that could have been. The progression of both his creative style and his physical look, something we won't ever get to see while other examples on our list demonstrate how. Stars undergo aging and transformation over decades, while Dean stays eternally youthful, forever fixed at the age of 24. The fact that Dean remains frozen in perpetual youth adds a uniquely poignant dimension to his story within the context of Hollywood. Tales of a promising start, devoid of a middle or conclusion, revolve around a handsome young man who was tragically denied the opportunity to fully flourish. The meticulous crafting of his rebellious persona, preserved at its zenith, endures as a source of enduring heartbreak. Years after his passing, one wonders, would Dean have retained his electrifying presence as time went on? Would he have welcomed the changes that come with age, or would he have resisted them? The inherent transformations in his looks, these inquiries persist without resolution, leaving us with merely the exceptionally well-executed image depicting youthful beauty in a state of perpetual defiance. 3. Clark Gable, famously dubbed the King of Hollywood, captivated audiences with his smoldering gaze and undeniable charisma, solidifying his status as a leading man for MGM. For almost 30 years, these were the most prized possessions. What audiences didn't know was that the Clark Gable who enthralled the audiences for both Gone with the Wind and It Happened One Night were the product of a meticulously planned strategy, one that originated with. Upon Gable's arrival in Hollywood during the late 1920s, studio heads promptly recognized the need for substantial cosmetic enhancements. He was found to have several noticeable physical issues, most prominently ears that protruded significantly from his head. His damaged teeth, which negatively impacted both his smile and facial appearance, were deemed too rugged for a leading role, causing MGM to Time was spent addressing these issues, perceiving them as surmountable hurdles in the process of finding their next leading actor. The ear. Techniques used for ear pinning in the 1930s were significantly more intrusive compared to the less invasive autotolasty procedures performed today. The surgical procedure entailed making incisions behind the ears and employing sutures to securely reposition them closer to the head. According to MGM's medical files reveal that Gable endured this agonizing procedure in 1932. The use of local anesthesia and alcohol for pain control during general anesthesia procedures was less comprehensive in dental. Gable's early press photographs reveal a smile that appears distinctly different, marked by unevenness and signs of damage. Dental problems stemming from inadequate childhood dental care and a long-standing, serious gum infection afflicted him. MGM made arrangements for the removal of most of his teeth and provided him with a full set of dentures. Actress Carole Lombard, who, at one point, Gable's spouse, reportedly quipped about his dentures, even going so far as to give him a Valentine's Day gift of a heart-shaped box holding his extra set of teeth, accompanied by a note that said, "Carry these with you, because I want to ensure that smile remain within our family." The success of the transformation was so profound that it set the standard for how studios would approach. Looking ahead, male actors will be focusing on addressing issues authentically, avoiding a contrived or overly polished appearance, as per MGM's direction. The investment proved incredibly successful, as Gable's polished look, coupled with his innate charm and talent, resulted in one. As Gable entered his 40s and 50s, preserving his youthful looks became increasingly crucial for one of Hollywood's biggest draws. As Gable reached the age of 38 during the filming of Gone with the Wind, he was already resorting to hairpieces to compensate for. To hide his thinning hair, makeup artists devised methods to preserve his iconic jawline definition in a natural way. The passage of time started to mellow Gable's formerly sharp features. What makes Gable's situation especially noteworthy in the context of Hollywood is the handling of these initial interventions was shrouded in absolute secrecy. The public was presented with a narrative that Clark Gable's captivating presence was inherently genuine. By the era of his last films in the early 1960s, a distinction had emerged between Gable's physical presence and the persona he cultivated on screen had significantly evolved during his time on the set of The Misfits. Makeup applications in 1961 reportedly consumed hours to achieve the glamorous look that audiences anticipated. When he passed away, his sudden death from a heart attack at the age of 59, shortly after wrapping up filming, left many of his admirers stunned by his physical condition. In person, Gable seemed less impressive than his meticulously maintained screen persona suggested. His case exemplifies This transformation is the most surprising on our list due to its all-encompassing nature and its remarkably successful concealment from public view. The persona that captivated audiences as Rhett Butler was, in essence, a carefully constructed image. Evidence of Hollywood's remarkable ability to forge not only narratives, but also the individuals who brought them to life. 2 Cary Grants. The desire to emulate Cary Grant is universal, as even the actor himself acknowledged in a famous quote. Everybody wants to be Cary Grant. This statement subtly suggests the meticulously crafted facade of his polished on-screen image, unbeknownst to his viewers, was that Grant's air of effortless sophistication and his strikingly youthful look stemmed, in part, from subtle, but when Archibald Leach underwent his transformation into Cary Grant in the early 1930s, his physical metamorphosis was a striking example of effective cosmetic work. His journey started with dental work, aiming to craft the flawless smile that would later define him, a smile famously captured in Paramount studio recordings. Demonstrate that Grant had significant dental procedures performed in 1932 involving the replacement of multiple teeth. He altered his teeth, damaging some and reshaping others to achieve his signature, perfectly symmetrical grin. While less extensively recorded, Grant's procedures during the 1950s, a period when he was in his 50s, were still noteworthy. Playing the romantic interest alongside actresses significantly younger than him, a fact confirmed by close associates, had been a recurring theme in Grant's career. A delicate procedure called blepharoplasty, first performed around 1957, aimed to correct the issue of hooding by subtly lifting the upper eyelid. Director Alfred Hitchcock, who collaborated with Grant on numerous projects, observed that Grant's on-screen presence was starting to show signs of fatigue. Unintentionally validated these procedures during a 1966 interview, where he stated that their partnership between the films To Catch a Thief, 1955, and North by Northwest, 1959, saw a noticeable transformation in her appearance. When pressed for specifics, Hitchcock swiftly steered the conversation in another direction, adhering to the industry's unspoken rule of secrecy regarding male. Grant's cosmetic enhancements were especially impactful due to their understated nature, in contrast to some of his, while later colleagues chose more noticeable cosmetic surgeries. Grant's procedures preserved his natural appearance. The authenticity of the expressions and characteristic movements was so convincing that viewers naturally assumed his timeless quality. Grant's enduring appeal was often attributed to his good genes and healthy lifestyle, as subtly suggested by his longtime friend and co-star Katharine Hepburn. In her autobiography, she mentioned his procedures, stating that Carey recognized his looks were a significant advantage. He guarded that valuable possession with the same meticulous attention one would give to a prize car or a costly timepiece. He knew Grant, a forerunner in men's skincare and fitness, was instrumental in determining the optimal timing for maintenance procedures, even excluding surgical interventions. Long before these practices were widespread, his daily routine incorporated facial exercises and specialized skincare. Goods and a rigorous diet and exercise regimen intended to preserve his trim physique and vibrant energy levels well into. In the twilight of his Hollywood career, Grant made a calculated move that would solidify his enduring legacy. He ended their on-screen career at 62 following the completion of a 1966 film, Walk, Don't Run. Unlike numerous stars maintained their status as leading figures even after their peak popularity, but Grant chose to retire while still delivering compelling performances. He carefully chose romantic roles, making sure his public image wouldn't be negatively affected by parts that could emphasize his growing older. This well-planned departure ensured that the public's enduring image of Grant is that of a man who always appeared flawlessly dressed. Exceptionally attractive leading man, as opposed to the man who naturally aged during his 2 decades away from the spotlight when he passed away in 1986 at the age of 82. His altered appearance in his later years surprised many of his admirers. With 2 decades having passed since his last on-screen appearance, plastic surgeon Dr. Jessica Wu, who has researched Grant's. The striking aspect of Grant's work is its conservative nature, as evidenced by the transformation achieved through film footage and photographs. He never strived to appear 30 years old despite reaching 50. Instead, he focused on looking like the most exceptional version of himself, regardless of his age. This method of cosmetic enhancement, focusing on upkeep rather than dramatic change, is considered the leading practice in male cosmetic surgery. Grant's method of enhancing his appearance set a significant standard in Hollywood. For instance, Humphrey Bogart, with his tough guy persona, distinctive voice, and unforgettable facial features, Humphrey Bogart appears to be the most unlikely choice for the crafting of Hollywood's quintessential anti-hero. However, demanded meticulous cosmetic intervention from the stars of its golden age. image editing techniques that morphed a fairly average actor into a symbol of rugged masculinity when Bogart's career started. During the early 1930s, Warner Brothers executives recognized his talent, but harbored reservations regarding various elements of his film career. His most striking feature was a subtle speech impediment, a consequence of a lip injury he received while serving in the Navy. His service during World War I left him with a distinctive lisp and restricted his facial movements. In an effort to address this unique characteristic, the studio made the groundbreaking choice to fully accept it as. Bogart's allure was enhanced by makeup artists and lighting technicians who employed techniques designed to highlight rather than conceal his features. The scar tissue, subtly restricting movement in his upper lip, resulted in a perpetually tense and controlled facial expression. Studio makeup artist Perk Westmore, who would later become known for his signature style, disclosed that with Bogart, we did the reverse of what? Rather than concealing his imperfections, we skillfully amplified the traits that others might perceive as weaknesses. We subtly deepened the scar tissue near his lip and employed lighting to highlight its unique character. The impact on his expressions was a key element of this approach, which also shaped Bogart's entire aesthetic. In contrast to other leading men who were to achieve a desired look, Bogart was photographed with carefully placed stubble on his face, contrasting with his flawlessly styled hair and makeup. Hair and clothing that suggested a lived-in aesthetic rather than impeccably tailored pieces, this thoughtfully designed ensemble created the air of genuineness he exuded, which flawlessly matched his tough guy personas, as film historian Robert Clark observed. Bogart's charm stemmed from a carefully cultivated sense of authenticity, an impression that he wasn't a product of contrived Hollywood artifice like many others. In truth, every element of his on-screen image was as meticulously crafted as any others. Designed to look effortless, Bogart's image remained carefully cultivated as he entered his 40s and 50s, a period when his fame reached its peak. Maintaining this, his disheveled appearance necessitated more frequent upkeep, particularly concerning his receding hairline, which was managed with a calculated approach. Costume design included styling and selective hair accessories for specific characters, as makeup techniques advanced to preserve a defined jawline, which had started to lose its firmness due to age. For the 1951 film The African Queen, director John Huston was determined to film Bogart without his customary makeup, aiming to emphasize the character's rugged, weathered look. The unexpected authenticity of the performance stunned audiences used to Bogart's more refined portrayal, exposing how a significant amount of effort was usually invested in crafting his seemingly genuine appearance, particularly by the time of his last films in the mid-1950s. Esophageal cancer, the disease that would ultimately claim his life, had a profound impact on Bogart's appearance. Makeup artists diligently employed cutting-edge techniques to effectively conceal any signs of weight loss and fatigue. To capture his iconic facial features as the illness gradually transformed them, when Bogart passed away in 1957 at the age of 57, the disparity between his real looks and his on-screen persona had become significant. However, unlike numerous stars whose legacies, as the illusion behind their persona loses its hold, Bogart's cultural influence continues to strengthen. This lasting popularity is a testament to the brilliance of how his image was crafted. By embracing rather than concealing his unique characteristics cultivated by Hollywood produced a star who appeared genuinely himself, even when that genuineness was. As film critic Roger Ebert noted, Bogart lacked conventional handsomeness, but he possessed a strikingly handsome appearance. His features captured in photographs with a unique quality that grew increasingly captivating. Compared to conventional attractiveness, in an industry founded on deception, Bogart's most impressive deception was the illusion of appearing to. Dismiss the illusion completely. A meticulously constructed authenticity that has persistently shaped on-screen masculinity for decades following. His passing solidifies his status as Hollywood's most recognizable leading man from its golden era. Our exploration. A fascinating contradiction emerges when examining Hollywood's most charismatic leading men, the studio-era stars such as Gable and Grant. Experienced fundamental procedures aimed at refining rather than drastically changing their looks, resulting in idealized. As we progress to later icons like Newman and Dean, the focus transitioned towards constructing the appearance of genuineness images crafted to seem unproduced. The most intriguing aspect is perhaps how we approach the discussion of these interventions in a distinct manner when compared to those of female stars from the same period. Each cosmetic procedure and bodily alteration undergone by actresses such as Marilyn Monroe or Elizabeth Taylor has been thoroughly documented and frequently criticized. Their male peers, however, were largely shielded from such. The double standard, unfortunately, endures to this day. When we examine prominent male figures in today's society, we observe these same recurring patterns. Employing more advanced methods, contemporary stars are subjected to more comprehensive procedures compared to their predecessors from the golden era. Even peers, at any age, could still uphold the pretense that natural beauty and a healthy lifestyle were the only factors contributing to their enduring look. What consistently endures throughout the years is our complex connection with masculinity. We expect our leading men to possess both striking physical beauty and genuine authenticity. Seemingly naturally gifted rather than artificially altered, a paradox that compels them to follow the same established patterns of. The initial wave of Hollywood stars set the precedent for intervention and denial. The 10 men we've listed didn't simply. They shaped the concept of masculinity through their actions, setting the standard for how male celebrities handle themselves, how they are perceived by the public, and navigate the conflicting needs for genuineness and idealized representation. How do these shifts continue to influence our modern views on masculinity? Which of these changes was most unexpected for you? Did this alter your perspective on any of these iconic actors? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this enjoyable. In this journey through Hollywood's secret past, remember to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for more content. Videos that delve deeper than the polished public personas, exposing the captivating truth behind our beloved celestial bodies.